Good evening, and welcome to Sporlitics, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the conservative constitutionalist, Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. Tonight, we've got a lot for you. The struggle is real. It's the Electoral College struggle, or the Electoral College Reform Act, as the United States House and Senate tries to determine which bill will be the best to give their full support to. NASCAR with Stephen as he discusses Chris Bucher's win in Bristol, Tennessee, and he stopped his losing streak. President Biden says if Taiwan is attacked by China, the U.S. will defend them. Roger Federer retires. Todd and tennis to talk about the details. Public schools throughout the United States are getting a grade of D for poor conditions. And experts say problems are getting worse, but the Eagles won. Can you see? The Eagles won. That's why I've got on green lipstick, green eyeshadow. The Eagles won. That and more with the NFL Week 2. Thousands of people return to in-person work in cities throughout the country. Does this mean that COVID-19 is over? The United Atlanta soccer team settles for a score of 0, or with a score of draw, not 0, draw, with the Philadelphia Union. We'll talk about that. What happens to the governors of the states of Florida and Texas who sent migrants seeking asylum from countries like Venezuela? They were seeking asylum in the United States. What happens to them? What happens to those governors who sent them to states like Massachusetts and Illinois and New York? Do they get prosecuted? The Queen was laid to rest on Monday, and more, if we can fit it in. First up, Stephen, you want to talk about NASCAR? We don't have a clip. I'm sorry, we don't have a clip. They're having a lot of problems with copyright problems. So a lot of the places where we got our clips from are not allowing us to take video clips to show you. So you won't see any clips during this show. But we're still the same people, still talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
So,
that's okay. That was
okay.
just like icing on the cake. We already have the cake. We don't need them. We had Chris Briscoe went in the race, number 17. He's not in the playoffs. Last week we Bubba Wallace won. He's not in the playoffs. But it means so much more for the manufacturers trophy at the end. It means so much for them to solidify their places where they are. So nobody is out there racing for nothing. Just because you're not in the playoffs doesn't mean it's not a good thing. So there's 7 races left. And what really bothers me is my 2 favorite drivers, if you've listened to this show forever, is Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. And both of them are eliminated now from the playoffs, which they were in. They finished too far back because of incidents and things that don't really involve them and beyond their control, and they're out now. So it's like Serena not being in the finals for Wimbledon or anything like that. I think Todd can understand that. It just takes all the luster off of everything, but it's still exciting. This is the best racing I've seen in years. It's very competitive, and that's why 2 of the best drivers are not in right now. That they got kicked out because there's so much talent, and these cars are so different. And the older drivers that have been there for a decade or decades, they're having a harder time with it, where the younger guys are having a better time with it because it more matches what they're used to and what they do in simulators and stuff like that. It just works for them a little bit better than the old school cars and the old school people. And if you notice, a lot of the old school people are not advancing as much. And that is what, in the long run, NASCAR wants. They want these guys to be more competitive. They want the new blood to come in and compete. And that's why Bubba Wallace is doing good. Plus, Bubba Wallace is in Kurt Busch's car, who had a terrible accident about 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. I don't remember, but he had a terrible accident. He's still not driving. So he got to go in better equipment, which is the 45, as opposed to the 23 that he was in. And it's just a little bit better, and he has done so much better as a driver. So this has helped him a lot. This has helped his career because Kurt Busch got hurt, that other people can take advantage of that, which also makes racing so much more interesting. This has been a great year for NASCAR. I don't know where it's going to go from this point on, but if people would just stop and watch the races, everybody would be hooked, because it's the most exciting I've ever seen. These cars are strong. They can take the impact. They can keep going, and people are getting hurt less. And that's what we want. We want people to be more safe. We want the racing to be more dramatic, and that's what we're getting.
Okay, so Stephen, now you said playoffs, so I guess we're at the end of the regular season for NASCAR. Is that it?
Yes.
So what is this about playoffs?
We're at the end of the regular season. We've had 3 playoff races. There are 7 more to go, and every week
7 more to go.
Yeah, and every week a few people are going to be eliminated, like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. They're eliminated now. They can still race for whatever they're racing for, but they have no chance to win in the championship. And Kyle Busch, which is unbelievable, he is one of the best race car drivers who ever lived, with Joe Gibbs Racing. That's why so many people, Redskins fans like me, love him, is because he's with Joe Gibbs Racing, who used to coach for the Redskins. He's leaving the team, and they're bringing a guy from another team, and he's going to that team, and it's just ridiculous because he has all the talent in the world. And I think it has something to do with, I think Todd could appreciate ageism, where he's older now. Kevin Harvick's older now. People get older, and they want the new blood to come in, and that's what it's all about. But these guys have so much talent. They have more talent in their little finger than these guys that are coming up behind them. But the cars.
So why in the world do you think that? Why in the world do you think that Cousin Todd could relate to ageism?
Because of Serena. Because he's like, Serena's gotten older, and everybody thinks she should retire because it's ageism. It's because people get older and they're not winning as much. Maybe they should get out and give it to the new people that are 17, 18 years old. Yeah.
Right.
But as an older person, like Todd is, as I am, we still want older people. We root for them to do well and keep.
Well, speak for yourself, honey. Stop there. Stop there and speak for yourself.
Oh no, I was just making fun. I don't know how old Todd is.
Nobody knows how old
I'm just playing with Todd.
So, like I said, as you can see, before I want to go on to, I guess I won't. As you can see, I have on. Well, let me talk about the Philadelphia Union. I mean, the Atlanta Union. What is it? The Philadelphia
Aces. You're talking about the Aces
Union and the Atlanta United soccer team.
Oh, soccer.
They decided that they would. Now, I'm talking about this because, of course, I'm a Philly fan all the time. Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia Phillies, Philadelphia Flyers, Philadelphia 76ers. I'm Philadelphia all the time, and we have the Philadelphia Union. Well, they went to compete against the Atlanta United, and they settled for a draw. So on September 17th, a few days ago, Doug Roberson from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said that the Atlanta United outplayed the hottest and best team in Major League Soccer, but managed only a 0-0 draw with Philadelphia on Saturday at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Now, I say that because, of course, I would think, and it seems like this gentleman, I'm going to share my screen, believes that Philadelphia is the hottest team in soccer. How many people knew that? I didn't think so.
Todd knew.
So I don't know if you can see this. Todd claims he can't see my screen, but I'll scroll down here. If you can see, Atlanta United outplayed them. I don't know about that, but that's what he wants to believe, and that's what he writes for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And they decided on a score of 0 with the draw. He says, as you can see here, Atlanta United cut its deficit behind 7th place Columbus to 1 point in the playoff race. The crew are scheduled. Can you see this, Todd? Because he says he can never see it.
No,
the crew are scheduled to play Portland on Sunday. Atlanta United has 2 games remaining in the regular season. The team it is chasing or competing with for one of the final playoff spots have 3 games remaining. So can you see that, Cousin Todd?
No. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, I did all that to say, hey, go ahead, Philadelphia Union. We're the top team. I'm so happy. Congratulations to them, even though they did a draw. What'd you say, Stephen?
I can see it.
You can see it pretty good?
Oh,
so it's just Cousin Todd?
I think Todd's just playing. He's just playing.
No. I can't see that well anyway.
So Cousin Todd.
I think Todd was just messing with you.
No, but I can't see that close up.
Okay, it's gone now.
Far away. I know, but I was just saying that. You're trying to get to tennis, right?
Go ahead to tennis.
Well, I didn't want
to. I can start with Carlos Alcaraz.
Yeah, you go. You do that. And I'm going to get my notes.
Is the number 1 player. They're playing now in the Davis Cup. And as they play, well, don't leave. So, I'm not. Okay, as they play in a tennis cup, he lost the match for Spain. In the Davis Cup, they usually play in teams, even though they play individually, but they play in teams. And he, as a part of the Spanish team or the team for Spain, the country, he lost his match. But I'm not surprised because, one, he's got a target on his back. Everyone is game, they're going for him because he's number 1 now. And when you're number 1, what happens? Everybody wants to beat you, right? So they want to beat him because he's number 1, because he's got the speed, because he's got the agility, because he's got the mental toughness, because he's got the dedication, because he's got the ability to play 5 or 6 sets in 3 hours. That's why I think Federer retired. Now, Todd disagrees with me, but if you're Roger Federer, Stephen, I guess Todd he's making up his notes as he goes.
He's making some lemonade.
If you're Roger Federer, right? And you were the Swiss player, number 1, you're 41 years old, right? You've got this 19-year-old who's 1, fast, 2, mentally tough, 3, agile, 4, changes his game to meet someone else's game, and 5, can play for hours at a time. Would you retire? Stephen, that was for you.
Maybe at 41, maybe not. Around 40 for a lot of men is when they hit their peak. Their physical peak is around 40. So 40, 41, I'm not so sure of that, but maybe he has so much, he's accomplished so much. Maybe he just wants to chill out and take time and smell the flowers. But just like Serena, what they're going to do is both of them are going to come back and they're going to play again. I guarantee you. Then I can be able to sit out and say, we don't want to play anymore. Serena's going to come back.
But then the thing becomes, if they come and they play again and they start losing, wouldn't it have been better? I mean, why do that? Would you want to come and play again and lose?
Because I'm not sure they're going to lose. Because the older you get, legitimately, the more rest you need and the more time you need in between playing, so they could come back and still win. I guarantee it. Like, look at Tom Brady. How old is Tom Brady? 87. He can
I don't
still
know.
play at the top level. And these elite athletes like Serena, they can come back and play and win. What they need
Well,
is rest.
I think that their experience helps them come back and play, but it doesn't necessarily help them win. And when you have someone who's 19 years old and you're 41 years old and they're playing at a level that is like Juan Carlos says that Carlos Alvarez is at 60%. 60%. He says he has 40% more to go. And if you're 41 and you're playing this 19-year-old and they're at 60%, and they're playing 3 hours, like the second longest tournament at the US Open.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, I don't think there's anywhere for you to go. So, Todd, I stretched this out as long as I could. I don't mind because I like Carlos Alvarez. Carlos Alvarez, we now as Sporlitics follow him on Instagram. He's awesome. He was amazing when we saw him at the US Open. I don't mind talking about him. I think he's a great player. There are other great players that are gunning for him. Sinner, who he played center from Italy. Sinner is a real contender. Sinner can beat Carlos, and he probably will at some point as they continue to play each other over the next couple of years. But the point is, he's hot now. He's hard to beat. And if I were Roger Federer, I would have retired too.
Okay, before I get into tennis, let me just talk about something more realistic.
No. I did all this for you to try to hijack and switch everything after I did all this for tennis.
Just a moment. Stacey, I think, Stacey, say no to drugs.
I don't do drugs. I don't even drink.
It's not her.
Oh my God, I can't get a sentence out.
Stacey,
okay,
yes.
bye-bye.
Don't even get a sentence out.
I'm going on a break. Bye.
Bye.
Ugh.
Why aren't you gone?
So, like I said, before I get into tennis, I wanted to say why I took so long I was getting my notes, and a police officer came to my door, and they're looking for Stephen.
Why would they come to your door looking for me? I wouldn't be at your house.
Lord knows you wouldn't be here. Nevertheless, there was a little boy who was missing. And the police wanted to know if they could see him, if he was on my camera at my door. And I had to deal with that. And but as I was talking to the police, she got a call that he's been found.
Oh, good.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's very good.
And they were found in your house.
Oh, he's so right. That's funny, though. He was 12 years old. And so,
all right, we're not gonna. Okay, we're glad. We're very glad he was found, and they didn't tell you the circumstances.
No, just that he was a 12-year-old little boy, African American, and they were looking for him, and then he was found, and I was so glad about that. So that's what took me so long. Now back to tennis. I just wanted to let you know what I was doing. I wasn't just daydreaming as I was getting my notes on Federer. Federer is retiring, and I am just beside myself because
and I'm bored.
No, I want to hear this. He's going to make sense. I'm with you, Todd.
Serena, Venus, Nadal, Federer. Those are my favorite players. Yeah. Also, Osaka and about 3 or 4 more. But Venus, Serena, Nadal, and Federer are my favorites. And the fact that Serena retired and now Federer, and I think probably next year Venus will be retiring as well.
Yep.
Oh, what are we going to do? And so we have to put all our eggs in Nadal's basket. And I call him Little Nadal, this Carlos. I call him Little Nadal because he reminds me Nadal and Federer. He reminds
well,
me
he
of both.
plays actually from Serena's old coach. His comment says that Carlos Alcaraz plays actually more like Federer
than Nadal. Okay.
than
Well,
Nadal.
but see, Nadal is tough and relenting, which is what Alcaraz is.
Relentless.
No, I said Alcaraz was relentless.
Yeah.
Okay. And so is Nadal. That was my point.
Right.
And so, I think Stephen thought he was correcting my English. Isn't
No,
that a gas?
No, it was. He's relentless. His game is relentless.
Okay. So
yeah,
you said it was relenting.
He's relenting.
Okay.
So do you have people are bored?
Well, I have to keep
But Stacey, I understand where he's coming from. These are the best tennis players ever at this time that we've had during this time. And Todd is in mourning about losing all of these great tennis players. I understand what he's saying.
I'm not in mourning, ma'am.
But not in mourning like anybody died, but like you're lamenting because you're upset. I understand.
Lamenting.
This doesn't help
I think
tennis
you just
right
looked
now.
up that word, lamenting.
Right.
All right. Okay. I'm going to move on because you all are boring me.
Well,
unless you have something else.
I didn't bring up tennis.
No, that was it. Just that that things are changing now. So I'm just going to focus on Alcaraz. And there is a few others because the one Alcaraz played was
Francis Tiafoe.
Tiafoe.
Well, you're only focusing on him, Cousin Todd, because he's black. Now, you didn't talk about Sinner.
Why I was talking about
you didn't talk about Casper Rudd.
How do you know?
You talked about
why
Tiafoe.
I was talking about him
because last week you said you couldn't even watch the match because you were afraid that Tiafoe would lose.
Yeah.
To Alcaraz.
And I have said that about Federer, and I have said that about Nadal. And listen, racists, don't try to get in my head. Stay in your own Republican head.
He's going to project upon you, Stacey.
Okay, I'm not a racist because I'm black.
Yeah, that's right. We know you're not a racist, Stacey.
I'm not a racist. I like the players who play well. I think Tiafoe is an excellent player. I never said he was a bad player. It's just that there's somebody that's better. There's always someone better than you. There's someone better than each one of us. That's just the way life is.
No, ma'am.
I've never known anybody better than Todd.
Nor do I.
Right.
So, anyway, so that's it for tennis. I just hated that these people are going out all at once. I wanted them to scatter it a little bit.
Yes, you're right, Todd. Todd, you're exactly right. I agree with you.
Before Todd,
you agree with
before
me?
you came back,
100.
before you came back,
100.
Before you came back,
nobody wants to hear what you're going to say
before you came back to talk about tennis, and you're talking to the police officer at your door.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen said that you knew a little bit about ageism.
Door. The police love coming to my door.
Stephen said you knew something about ageism.
I don't care what Stephen says. I barely listen to Stephen or his boyfriend.
And that's where,
nevertheless,
that's why you're so far behind right now.
Yeah, I know.
All right, can we move on? Because everybody's bored. They don't want to hear it. Now, There was a time when I was out in Philadelphia and I was at this hotel by the Philadelphia International Airport. And these football players got on this shuttle I was on to go from one hotel to the other. And I started talking to them because it was cold. It was a little chilly. It was like in October. But it wasn't cold, but it was a little chilly.
You said I started talking to them because it was cold?
Yes, I'm getting ready to tell the story.
Talking to them because you're boy crazy.
No.
Yes,
I started talking to them because it was cold and they had on shorts. And I'm like, do you all know it's cold out here? I've got on like a jacket and they've got on shorts and t-shirts. They're like, oh, we just came from Miami. We're about to play the Eagles tomorrow. I said, oh, you're a Minnesota Viking? He said, yeah. And I said, oh, you're going to lose. And of course, they lost just like they lost last night, Monday Night Football Stephen, what did you have to say to me about that? And then we'll have Aguna come and talk about our great win. Go ahead, Stephen. What did you say to me when I called you yesterday about Cousins?
No, I'm going to tell you what. You have a quarterback that is awesome. And I've been touting him for 2 years at least, saying how great he's going to be. Have you seen anybody fight as hard as him to get through people, to run and make a touchdown that just carries people with him? He can squat over 600 pounds for reps. He is so strong. And now he's developed with his players where his arm works so well. He can make the tightest throws. This is the quarterback you wish you had with Vic. He's even better than Vic. He's going to be awesome. And I'm so glad he's on my team. Of course, I do play fantasy. And of course, I picked him because he's amazing. I'm so glad to have him because he has the biggest heart and the most skill of most anybody that's out there right now. He doesn't give up on anything. 3 or 4 people can be holding him back. If you watch this last game, he would fight for the touchdown, like an extra 4 or 5 yards, and just keep chugging and pumping and making it in there. I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm a former Redskins fan, or still a Redskin. Redskins are undefeated, by the way. But I'm still – I call things as they are because and the Eagles are doing great because of him. You have somebody – and then they brought A.J. Brown in, which I have him as well as my fantasy team, and have the hookup. But I'm so happy that the Eagles are doing what they're doing because I saw it coming way back, and it's coming to fruition now, and everybody's going to reap the benefit. I will almost guarantee they make the Super Bowl. It's a given they'll make the playoffs. They'll make the Super Bowl, and who knows who they'll play. If everybody can stay continuous and do the things they're doing now and everything stays the same, there's not much stopping the Eagles right now. And because they're in our division, I still root for our division. Now, the Cowboys looked okay. They have a great Micah is his name that plays linebacker for. His first name is Micah for the Cowboys. I can't think of his last name. But they have a couple pieces that are okay, and they play better without Dak. And the Giants are looking pretty good. But I don't think anybody can touch Eagles. So you can rest easy because you have the best quarterback or a top 5 or 4 quarterback in the entire league on the Philadelphia Eagles. It's amazing. It's so much fun to watch him. And this is what football is all about. And I'm glad he's on my fantasy team.
I think Stacy went to sleep.
Stacy passed out because I'm a Skins fan. And
No, I didn't pass out. I'm sorry. That was Aguna. Aguna's having technical difficulties, and he's unable to get on, and I was talking to him. Go ahead, Aguna. Talk about how great our team is.
When you have the Obama phone, Aguna, sometimes it really just doesn't work.
Are you not over the U.S. Open? Are you still in mourning over that?
No. Yes, he is. Crying.
Well, so real quick, I'm actually on my way coming from Philadelphia. I was at the game, and so it was a great atmosphere. It was a great win. I think that most Eagles fans did not predict that to happen. We haven't won a Week 2 game since I think 2016. And it's just one of those games where we need to make a statement, but sometimes it never happens. But it was able, we had a really good, offense looked really good. Jalen Hurts looked really good. He still has some things to work on, but for the most part, things came together. But it was great. It was good to kick off the season. I mean, this was probably the Vikings were probably one of the toughest teams we're going to face all year. So being able to, come out on the home opener and get the win was big, was really important from a confidence perspective for the team. So you got 15 games left. So you take it one win at a time, but it was a big win. I think it was Jalen Hurts made a statement. And for the most part, a lot of people are behind him now. You don't have a lot of critics. But then again, we'll see what happens against the Commanders next week because I think that's going to be a big sign for, whether or not we're moving forward. The key is consistency. So he has to show that he's consistent in order to really change people's minds.
What does the Commanders' defense have that keeps you awake at night, Aguna?
Well, I mean, so they do have a good front four. You also have Carson Wentz, who's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. You guys got good receivers. So it's going to come down to just, being able to close out games. And even in this game, the Eagles didn't put up any points in the second half. I mean, they had a blocked field goal. But you saw where Detroit jumped out quick on Washington, and then, they came back, right? So Carson Wentz, if he's anything, he's a fighter. The Washington defense, you got a good front four. And if you're on the road, division games are always tough. You never know. They're unpredictable sometimes. And I don't think Carson Wentz is going to be coming out there trying to make a bunch of mistakes and play hero ball. He's going to methodically move the ball down the field. And even against Minnesota, Kirk Cousins was able to move the ball. He had a lot of bad drops, and then he turned into Kirk Cousins at the end where he was forcing things and made some bad decisions. But we'll see. I mean, division games are always tough. And so we'll see what happens. I think, Wentz is something to prove. So you never know.
Have you heard the rumor, Aguna, about Del Rio and the team not wanting to play for him because of the things he said on the offseason? Have you heard that rumor?
No, are you talking about Carson Wentz?
No, I'm talking about Del Rio, the defensive coach for the Redskins.
Oh, Del Rio, some of the things. Yeah, so that's the other thing. These guys, if they're not 100% behind their D coordinator, right? I heard some rumors about, the locker room and stuff like that, but these guys got to get paid. I mean, they got,
right.
I don't know how true those things are, but he's got to do something defensively to do something different. I mean, you don't have Chase Young back there anymore. He's going to be out for another couple of games, so, the guys got to step up.
Yeah, that's right. So, that does hurt. They have a couple pieces missing that are huge. It does hurt the Commanders. I think the Eagles are going to go off, probably win by 20.
Thank you, Stephen. But Stephen, you said to me something about Aguna last night. I called you during the Monday Night Football, and you said something about Aguna's fantasy team.
I was wondering if Aguna had any fantasy teams this year. Do you have any, Aguna?
Yeah, and it's messed up because I have two leagues. There's the big money league, and then there's the league I play for just for fun, right? Yeah. And the bad part about it is I have similar players. I have a very similar roster. The big money league, my roster is kind of stacked, but I'm not playing the players that I'm supposed to play. Like the week one, I had Saquon on the bench. Oh. And Aaron Jones was playing for Green Bay. So this week, I swapped them out. I put Saquon in there, and I took Aaron Jones out, and Aaron Jones goes off. So, and then I'm going up against people that are going off, right? So the last week I went up, the guy had Jalen Hurts. He had a big game. This week, the guy had Cooper Kupp. So I'm 0-2 in one game, in one league, and then I'm 2-0 in the other league that's not the big money league.
Oh.
So that's always.
If you're 0-2,
I'll bounce back this week. I'll bounce back in both.
If you're 0-2, you probably won't make the playoffs.
To win both games, but I just need to make sure I'm making good roster decisions.
It's all about that. But if you're 0-2, you're having a hard time to make the playoffs now. You got to win one or two games.
Yeah, I got to rip off. I made the playoffs before 0-2. But I definitely, this week, this is a must-win week for me. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think I got the roster because we got some good matchups. But, yeah, Saquon really messed me up this past week. And I have and even Eckler. I have Eckler, Saquon, and Aaron Jones. And so I have three really good running backs. And, I've just made some bad roster moves the last 2 weeks, and it's cost me games. I lost week one by 1 point because DJ Metcalf fumbled the ball. Yeah. and he lost a point. And so, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
So also, I want to talk about, somehow I was on Instagram, and someone put up something that was a falsehood. They said that Dallas had taken in their new quarterback, and his name was Kaepernick. What do you think about Kaepernick going to the Cowgirls?
He won't.
I And that was a lie. That was a lie. The Cowboys have a good quarterback. I mean, they have a decent backup quarterback. Yeah. And Kaepernick, now it's going on almost 6 years he hasn't played. So it's like, as messed up as it was what the league did as far as, blackballing him, he's just not a viable option now being 6 years removed from football. It's just going to be very tough for him to come back from that. And then not to say that, when it happened, he was he wasn't a great quarterback. He was decent. But, again, they now that he's been 6 years removed, it's going to be even harder for him to bounce back.
He's not.
All right, so
come back and play.
So my cousin Chris,
Definitely not in Dallas. Jerry Jones would not sign Colin Kaepernick. That's just not going to happen.
Oh, that's because he stands up for the rights of black people?
No, because he stands up for something that's ridiculous. That's why.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day,
something that's ridiculous.
He doesn't care about. He doesn't care about.
I wouldn't say it was ridiculous. I just think that it became a lightning rod of controversy, and so people, took advantage of the message, and of course, you see what happened, of course, and then the league. The league took advantage of it as well.
And Trump took advantage of
people's a lot of money.
You see where, the actual message got lost in what people made out of it.
So,
it was a bad message.
Last week, my cousin Chris was on Aguna, and he's a Buffalo Bills fan, and he's been making comments on our YouTube channel tonight, talking about Micah Parsons and the Bills. How do you think the Bills did this week?
They were awesome.
The Bills were good. They're a good team. I mean, if you look what Buffalo was able to do, they went into the world champion LA Rams and they beat them decisively on the road. And then you come back and they beat the Tennessee Titans, who was the number 1 seed in the AFC. Granted that Tennessee wasn't at full. I mean, Tennessee didn't have Julio, doesn't have A.J. Brown anymore, so it's not quite the same team or the same offense. But they beat them handedly, at home, right? So they're definitely the team to beat. Josh Allen is playing lights out. Then you have Stephon Diggs, who's, he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. He's been in many AFC championship games. He was in the NFC championship game, and he saw the other team celebrate and go to the Super Bowl and win. So he's definitely hungry. Allen is hungry. The city of Buffalo is hungry. So it's interesting to see how things are aligning themselves. Now, I will say this. Most of the time when you have a team that's like they've already crowned them in September, something happens. It's either some type of adversity comes along, it's either an injury or some type of wake-up call. So, right now, they're definitely the team to beat. But then you also have Miami in that division. That's going to be a big game coming up next week where you have Miami versus Buffalo. So we'll see. It's going to be a lot of, drama to be played out for the next couple of weeks. And I mean, everybody should be happy football's back, but we'll see. But Buffalo right now is definitely the number 1, from a power ranking perspective. I mean, they're destroying teams.
Aguna, that Buffalo game is in Miami, right?
Yeah, and that's going to be a tough one. Miami plays differently down there.
Because it's so hot.
I believe it's in Miami. I believe it's in Miami. It's going to be hard to beat Buffalo at Buffalo, but it's also hard to beat Miami in Miami. You can ask the Patriots.
Right. Anybody. It's going to be hard for Buffalo.
Brady. They were beating the Patriots with Brady down there.
And Tua got 6 touchdowns? Who gets 6 touchdowns?
I mean, that was such a bad game. I mean, it was an amazing comeback. I'm not taking anything away from the Dolphins, but Lamar Jackson played a hell of a game for the Ravens, and for them to give up 28 points late like that and to just completely collapse. I'm not going to say Vegas was in on it, but, I mean, that's just something that's, that is just a disaster. And it also sets up the drama for next week, which is, 2-0 Miami versus 2-0 Buffalo. So, hey, we'll see what happens. We'll see if it's for real. We'll see. I like to see the Miami defense against the Buffalo offense and the Buffalo offense, or the Buffalo defense versus the Miami offense. That's going to be an interesting chess match.
So who are you taking, Aguna?
Oh my gosh.
I think the Bills Bills take it. I think the Bills take it. I don't see
in Miami.
Good night. I'm taking a nap.
I know they got Tyreek Hill, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Miami to match the firepower. Plus, I hear Gabriel Davis is coming back for the Bills, and he's the touchdown machine. I mean, Diggs, of course, is going to eat regardless, but I think the Bills, they just have something special going on right now. And until a team actually goes in there and punches them in the mouth decisively, they're not going to let up. They're not going to let up.
Okay, so I've got my cousin Chris on. He's on our YouTube channel. So, Chris, give us your synopsis of the Bills based on. Do you agree with Aguna?
Oh, we're still on football.
Yes, Todd, still on football.
I
do agree with him. But like I said, I've been a Bills fan for a long time. I watched us go 5-0 with Ryan Fitzpatrick as our quarterback and lose the next 7 games in a row. So, I mean, the season's not over yet. It's a good start to the season, so we have to see. Miami's tough though. They're a very tough team.
Yeah, you're right. It's gonna be tough for Buffalo to beat them in Miami. It's gonna be real tough right now.
It's tough for anybody to beat Miami. As hard as that sounds to say, Miami for some reason when they're in their home stadium, they're hard to beat.
And early in the year, it's like 100 degrees. Buffalo people are not used to going down to Miami when it's 100 degrees. They melt.
Yeah,
it's going to be really hard. I'm taking Miami in the point.
Estimate Bills Mafia though. Those guys are jumping through tables. They're doing all kind of stuff. The mob will travel.
They're not on the field.
They don't travel.
Buffalo Mafia is not on the field.
Go down there to Miami and show out. So I mean, and you got to realize too that fan base has been starving for a title for forever. So when you get this close and you see that, you see the momentum, you see the talent on that team, and I haven't even talked about the defense, and they haven't even got, Tre'Davious White isn't even back yet. So you start thinking about,
down there as assistant coach for Miami, who didn't get that job. And he said it was because of racism.
Talking about
Brian Flores.
Nadal.
Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Todd. When we talk football, you take a nap.
No,
bye, boy. Bye.
In your mouth.
Brian Flores, where is he now?
He's an assistant coach for Pittsburgh.
Oh, he's up in Pittsburgh. That's right.
But here's the thing about Brian Flores.
In your mouth and be quiet.
He wasn't that good anyway because he didn't want Tua to be the quarterback.
Right.
He fought against Tua being the quarterback for Miami. He didn't want Tua to be the quarterback. But he wasn't bad because the owner of Miami wanted them to lose so they can get a high draft pick, and he kind of refused to do it. But on the other hand, this guy that they got now is actually a better coach than he was in the first place anyway. So, I mean, I don't know if it was racism or not, but.
No.
So then my question would be to any one of you, do people scream racism at the last minute because they're trying to get over?
What?
Todd, let me start with Todd.
No, ma'am.
They scream racism because they're trying to get over and they aren't necessarily good. Is that why Brian Flores did that?
No, that's not why Brian Flores did that.
Well, you don't even know who Brian Flores is.
When he's a florist.
When Black people like you say things like that you've been trained to say by white Republicans, not a good look. If somebody is saying they've been discriminated against, believe them until proven otherwise. Innocent until proven guilty. In this case, if he said it, I believe him. Now, let them prove that it wasn't racism.
Aguna.
I think it's a combination of I don't know if it was purely based on racism or more so greed, right? So you got these owners who they want to position themselves to get a draft pick or whatever. So, but I mean, I do believe that they were paying him to tank. That doesn't seem totally, out of line. Now, whether it was racially driven, I don't know, but I do think that these owners are doing some shenanigans in order to position themselves to draft certain players and things like that. So I don't think that's too much out of the question.
So, cousin Todd, it sounds like Aguna doesn't sound too far off from me. Chris, what do you say?
Aguna said it's probably both. Only you're the one that said, you think those black people just say they cry racism like the boy that cried wolf? Only you said that, Republican, not Aguna.
Chris?
It might have been a slight combination of both, but to say that it was just pure racism in the league with 80% of black people is just ridiculous. I mean,
okay, so Chris is kind of agreeing with me.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was ridiculous to say that it was strictly because of racism that they fired him.
I don't know about strictly. It's always a combination of things.
I mean, either it is or it isn't.
Yes, it's racism, but it's also greed.
But when
don't take Aguna stuff now, cousin
No,
Todd.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
You didn't have that before Aguna said it.
The owners
you don't even know what football is. What color is a football, cousin Todd?
It kind of looks like your face.
Well, no, if that means it looks green,
face.
if it looks like this green in the Eagles, then hey, I'll be a football. Steven, what do you think it was?
He wouldn't know what it was unless I told him.
What do I think what was, Stacey?
Listen,
never mind. Let's move on.
No, let's move on. Look, what's more important?
Not the Commanders. Okay, Aguna, Steven puts up this thing showing the Redskins. He's got this old Redskins.
So why would you even ask him a question about racism?
Oh, because he has Redskins up? And you believe I think that's
racism so much. It's become silly. You've used racism so much that it's
become silly. Now that's what you say about blacks, but do you say that to Jews? No, you wouldn't dare.
I don't know what you're talking about, Todd.
I don't know, and I don't understand. Wait a minute. What are you trying to say? Yeah, of course you do.
There's different people throughout these
get out of my
many
face.
Thousands of years that have been discriminated against.
Listen at this.
Based upon if they're Jewish, black, Slavic,
how about
white, whatever.
How about white?
Matter. If there's a group of people who are oppressive and mean, they will be oppressive to
lost time.
It happened throughout the ages.
All right, so let's move on. I got to move on.
Nothing unique.
I got to move. Aguna, anything else for week 2 and anything else you're looking at week 3?
Well, there's a big Cowboys versus Giants matchup coming up next Monday night. Mm-hmm. That's going to be interesting because the Giants are 2-0 and the Cowboys are riding the hype off of Cooper Rush. And I know if the Cowboys win that game, you're going to start hearing some rumblings about Dak to come back and all this other stuff. You're going to start hearing a little bit of quarterback controversy stuff.
Yeah.
Also, if the Giants win, they're going to be like, we're back. New York is a big television market for the NFL. Right. And for the past couple of years, both teams in that market have sucked. So it looks like if you look at LA, the Rams won the championship, and the Chargers are supposed to be this up-and-coming team, right? So they both franchises are doing well. So look for that to be the same case in New York this year. We just saw the Jets pull off a great comeback win against Cleveland. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be some interesting matchups coming up. It's going to also be interesting to see if the Bengals can jump back because they're 0-2 coming off a Super Bowl appearance. So once you get to week 3, 4, and 5, that's when teams' identities start coming out, and you start seeing who are the real contenders versus pretenders. So that's why it's going to be very interesting to see this Commander-Eagles matchup because that's going to be telling all around. Because if the Eagles lose, the formerly known as Redskins win, and the Cowboys a 4-way tie for the East. And so that's going to be an interesting
mess. It's going to be a mess.
Y'all really cannot think that the Eagles will lose to the Commodores or the Commanders or the Communists or whatever they are. There's no way the Eagles are going to lose that game. Really?
I wouldn't put anything out past a divisional game. I mean, this is one of those things where, you think about it, Washington played the Eagles tough last year. The Eagles have gotten better, but, I don't know. These games have a funny way of playing out. So Somebody has a bad game, you get an injury, you get a turnover, things
I
happen.
understand injury, but Aguna, you have right now Michael Vick without the dogs and without all the baggage and without all the crap. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going against the Redskins.
I was never a big Michael Vick fan, by the way. I was never a Vick fan.
Well, what's odd to me
is
like Michael Vick because
fan, but I'm saying this is how good he is. Did you see him? Do you understand he could squat 600 pounds? So when 5 people try to tackle him, he's going to make it to the end zone.
I mean, I don't like seeing my quarterback pile over 3 guys into the end zone. You know,
no, I don't either.
But he can because he's strong. He's strong like Cam Newton.
Yeah, but I don't want him hurt. I don't want him doing that stuff because he's going to get hurt. That's the same type of stuff Wentz. No, that's the same type of stuff Wentz would do. And I would say Wentz shouldn't do that because he's going to get hurt. And then Todd called him a quadriplegic, which really is discriminatory against people who are disabled. But yet Todd wants to jump on me about a question I make, and he discriminates against the disabled.
The Eagles should win by 17 points.
We'll see. As long as they don't get the big hit and they play their game. But this is a gladiator sport. I mean, it's physical. People get hurt. It's not. I mean, a lot of times you don't want to play for injuries. You don't want to play not to get hurt. You got to play, and the thing is, they say you either retire or you get knocked out the league. That's how football is. Unfortunately,
I have Herbert. I have Herbert on the team, and he's got messed up cartilage around his ribs. So I understand when people can get hurt, but Herbert, otherwise, if he doesn't get hurt, he's going to win just about every week. And if Jalen Hurts is not hurting, he's going to win just about every game.
All right, so we're not going to have much time to talk about anything else. We have to move on.
Yay!
I want to talk about as more people are going back to work. People are going back to work in person, specifically in Center City, Philadelphia. They're going back to work all over the country. So does that mean COVID is over, Guna? Is COVID over?
Yes.
I mean, COVID is still around. It's not as severe. So the thing is that the interesting thing that's happened
isn't as severe.
You had the vaccine, and then you had people taking precautions, and you had the vaccine deniers and the herd immunity people trying to say just get herd immunity, all this other stuff. All of that's come together. So this is the bad thing about, well, not the bad thing, but this is the interesting thing about science and even medicine and viral. When you look at what happens with these types of viral behaviors and things like that, is you eventually get to herd immunity through vaccination.
Yeah, but we never reached.
You get herd.
We never reached
herd immunity just from your own health. You don't need a vaccination to have herd immunity.
You say that it's a little misleading because you don't necessarily have to reach herd immunity for the virus not to be as severe and create hospitalizations and deaths.
And where are you getting that information from? Where are you getting that information from, Stephen and Keith? Where are you getting that information from?
Who's Stephen and Keith?
You. You're not saying where you're getting the information from.
Well, there's two ways. I asked the doctor. I asked doctors, and I went to, of course, no one's going to believe the CDC or any of that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's scientific fact. With these types of viral behaviors, and like any viral behavior, once you get to a point where you have vaccination and also you have some type of immunity through your antibodies, we're in this space where you can look at the numbers of hospitalizations, they're not going up. You look at the numbers of deaths aren't going up. However, the spread of COVID is still pretty steady because people are getting it and they don't even know they have it because they're vaccinated or they've gotten boosted and stuff like that. So,
yeah, but
for those who want to deny the vaccine, you have evidence to show that it doesn't work. For those who want to say that the vaccine works, you do have some data points to show that works. So we're in this happy medium where you get a little bit of truth all around, but no one's going to listen to it anyway. But to your point, people are getting more comfortable. They are going back to work. You're not seeing as severe of illness, but those who have like low immune systems and those who are at high risk, they still have to take precautions because if you get sick and your immune systems aren't low,
400 people a day dying from.
You run a higher risk of hospitalization.
There's not 400 people a day dying from COVID.
Immune compromised that are still have to take precautions.
So go ahead, Stephen, and then Todd.
There's not 400 people a day dying from COVID, and people that are getting shots now are ignorant. People should understand that nobody should have ever gotten the shots ever. These shots.
I'm gonna move
Where are you getting this information from, Stephen?
Where do you think the dark web?
No human being should have ever gotten these shots. Nobody should have gotten these shots. These shots mess up your DNA. You know, from 1970 to 2020, there was about 700 elite athletes that died on the field
and
of play
putting the camera
because
on
of health issues. Because from 2020 to 2022, the same amount, about 700 people have died because these shots mess up your heart. These great athletes, these great young athletes who are forced to get these shots, are dying. People are having health issues because of these.
And where are you getting this information from,
Stacey? You're not going to find it on The View.
Why do you keep
You're not
saying
going to find it on CNN. I'm telling you, Stacey, your information is being suppressed. Once we win in 20.
As soon as I open my mouth, Stacey says, "Gotta move on. Don't want to hear you." But you let this quack go on and on. Where did you get that information?
Okay,
you know he got it from the dark web.
Thank you.
These people that are getting these shots are being damaged on purpose because the elitists who tell you have to get shots are trying
to drugs
because they believe the population is too large.
Why is Stacey allowing this?
They want to knock down the population.
Stacey, is it almost 8:30? Because every time on the show at 8:30, Stephen goes on these conspiracy theory rants. So it must be almost 8:30 because that's the only time he does it.
Okay, Cousin Todd.
Oh, I just ate a few jelly beans because I was bored. But Stephen is crazy. There are 400 people dying a day from the coronavirus. Now, those people are, most of them are immune compromised or the elderly.
And where are you getting that information from, Cousin Todd?
CDC. Now, this nonsense that Stephen was talking about was straight off the dark web. Those are conspiracy theorists telling him this crap, and he's repeating it. Because I read it on the dark web and it's got to be true. Now, these are physicians, like my sister's a physician, and he challenges her constantly. He's too dumb to know. He makes himself look crazy. She studied this. She's a pathologist. So, as a matter of fact, she's specifically a blood pathologist. She knows a little bit more than you, Stephen. And so when she said in the beginning, these viruses come, but then they mutate, which is what this virus did. And now I was trying to tell Aguna, this variant isn't as deadly as some of the other variants. But who's to say this winter, when we're all indoors, we won't get another variant that is more deadly than this one. So it's best to get vaccinated for the cold winter months when people will be indoors. In the summer, people are more outside, and it won't survive airborne in the air. But in close quarters, indoors, I would not advise it for the elderly or anybody who's immune compromised in any way, or for young children.
All right. So I mentioned earlier, Stephen, Congress, I still have my ticker on, sorry, and my COVID. Now I'm going to take COVID off. Congress is dealing with a bill right now. Congress is back in session. Mm-hmm. They're back on the Hill, the House and the Senate, and they are dealing with an electoral college bill. And what they're doing is they're trying to come up with ideas to put in this bill that different Congress people or senators can put the full support behind. They're trying to reform the Electoral College Act. I mean, they're calling it the Electoral College Reform Act, but they're trying to make changes to the Electoral College. This is important. Why, Aguna?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. It's important because, you look at these elections, the electors in the electoral college are supposed to reflect the popular vote of that state, right? So most of the electors probably, vote based on their election results in that state. So with all this scrutiny of election reform and all these people trying to position and change that, it's going to be important to make sure that that is secure. Now, what you saw in this 2020 election, you saw that there were some fake electors or electoral ballots trying to be cast in favor of Trump, where they tried to come and substitute electors from Mississippi and some of these other states that didn't necessarily reflect, I don't know why they did Mississippi, because Mississippi went for Trump. But you look at Michigan and also Arizona, there was attempts to try to swap out those electors or those elector ballots. And so when you look at what Pence did to certify the election, he had to actually put wording into what he was doing to make sure that those were disqualified and that true electoral ballots were cast. So the bottom line of it is you got to be careful. Again, this is a representative democracy. And underneath that is the fact that the founding fathers put in place electors in order to make sure that, farmers and people who are, laborers couldn't necessarily, it was a buffer between the popular vote and the actual vote. So it's interesting now with all this scrutiny under the elections that they're trying to change this now. So it'll be interesting to see which party is proposing what, because you have one party that's trying to uphold the way the old system was, and then you have, the Republican parties which are trying to cast doubt on that and change, some of the procedures going into to kind of influence the election. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
So we have, according to Punchbowl News AM, there is a cross-chamber power struggle. You have the Senate, where the process is driven by partisan, with Susan Collins, senator from Maine, and Joe Manchin, senator from West Virginia. And then in the House, you have Zoe Lofgren, Democrat congresswoman from California, and Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. They have their own bill. So there are substantial differences between these two bills. The House bill, for instance, talks about a failed election, right? The Senate bill says the states can define a catastrophic event. Keith, they can constitutionally do this, can't they?
Well, yes, unfortunately they can. But, just keep in mind the House is controlled by Democrats. So why are they displeased? They got the results they wanted. At least that's what I thought. It was.
But what's that got to do with these bills? I'm talking about they're coming up with these two bills. One bill is in the Senate and one bill is in the House. Both chambers are coming up with a bipartisan bill. They're trying to come up with wording that all of the senators and the House members can fully support, regardless of their party. But they're starting it with, like I said, the House's bill is talking about a failed election, and the Senate bill is talking about a catastrophic event in order to change this electoral college ability to choose a president. And what I asked you was, can they do this? And if they can do it, how can they reconcile the differences in what they call these two different bills or the events in the bills?
I said, yes, they can do it because that's the Congress. Congress has the power to do that. But why would they do it? That's my question. I don't understand totally why they do it. I mean, they said it was the most honest election.
Because these electors came in and they were not supposed to do that.
Let me finish my thought. Stacy already interrupted me, so I don't need you to interrupt me. I want to finish my thought. I just said that yes, they constitutionally. The question is why? What do they need to do? And I would say they need to leave it alone. The Electoral College is perfect as it is. The problem was not with the Electoral College. The problem was with the states. What happened was the states legislatures, but commissioners and governors were changing the rules at the last minute constitutionally. It had nothing to do with the Electoral College. What's that?
I don't know.
How come the moment?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that the states changed the rules which they could constitutionally do based on their state constitution. Because you're talking about Pennsylvania, in which during a once in a lifetime or 1,000-year pandemic, they extended the voting time and they extended the voting time for mail-in ballots. Again, I mean, I have no problem, allowing people to vote. I mean, if you're saying they're changing the rules because they're trying to make voting more accessible to citizens, that to me is what states should be doing. Now, if you're saying that we need to restrict voting to private citizens because your side is not winning elections because their platform is no longer viable to the citizens, so you want to make it so that a small group of people are voting, therefore you don't have to appeal to the broader citizenry. I mean, that's a whole different argument. And what you're seeing in the House, you're saying that, let's look, well, in the Senate, they're saying catastrophic event. That can mean a number of different things if it's defined by the state, and that can be dangerous because the state can define something as a catastrophic event, declare martial law, and then nullify the electorates. And depending on who's in power in Congress, it may go to the House or the Senate to decide who the president is, and no longer in the hands of the people. And I think if you look at the House, what the House is saying about a failed election, again, this gets into these conspiracy theories and these different things that are unproven around, fake ballots and all these other things. So I do agree with Keith. They may need to leave it alone, but at the same time, recognize the fact that there are people trying to mess with this election and the electoral college and the system for their own gain. And that's why, unfortunately, by even introducing these bills, they're casting doubt on the election to begin with, because now you're saying that you're acting on things that were unfounded. So why do you need to act to begin with?
Okay, so Keith, I'm going to let you finish. You were making a comment. Just make it real quick. Everyone's going to be on mute while you finish it. Go ahead, Keith.
My comment was, everyone listen carefully. I said, and you can prove me wrong if you can, but I said the states never legislatively changed anything. It was the governors of the states. It was the commissioners, the election commissioners and election people. It wasn't the state legislature. None of the state legislatures changed the rules. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. And you're also having some sort of technical difficulty, Keith, because we see you talking, then it stops, and we don't see you talking. So there's like a slow down in your video. But anyway, Chris, I'm going to ask you. There's going to be the Congress, the House, and the Senate are doing this according to the Punchbowl News AM. But they said that there may be, they're not sure, but there may be a lame duck. We may be in a lame duck section after this upcoming election. So wouldn't that be a problem? How would that help fix the Electoral College if we're going to be in a lame duck season?
Well, some people would say Joe Biden's a lame duck anyway, but I don't think it would affect it. The reason I have a problem with the Electoral College is, take for example a state like Mississippi, which is 65% black, but somehow they voted for Trump, which I don't understand how that happened. I think they need to do away with the Electoral College. What do you say, Todd?
Look at Keith.
I think they need to do away with the electoral college and just go back to the popular vote. But the only problem with that is you can have a state like Montana outvote a city like New York because they have more people. What were you gonna say, Stephen?
No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't have more people than New York.
So, Stephen.
They don't have more people.
So I guess your point to that would be, Stephen, that the electoral college would be better than the popular vote. Is that what you're saying, Stephen?
Absolutely. New York and California have
I got that backwards, but yeah, you're right.
People than the flyover states. What he just said made absolutely no sense. What he said made no sense.
You got some nerve. What are you talking about? You just said
that
people that
have less people can still be represented. If we didn't have the electoral college, then California would determine every election. There would be no need to go to Iowa or anywhere else.
Oh, shut up. California wouldn't determine every election.
If it was a popular vote,
so the question comes into play, why is that a problem? Because these other flyover states are entitled to popular vote, right?
They're not a democracy.
I mean, if you look at,
they're not a democracy. We are a representative republic.
States where they feel comfortable. If you choose to live in a Montana, then you're choosing to get your vote diluted by California. I mean, if these states aren't entitled.
No, you're not.
And look at what about Washington?
Move where you feel that you are most comfortable, and people move to more populated areas.
That's right.
Why is that a problem, right?
And then look at Washington.
That's a mob rule.
And the District of Columbia has nothing. And why?
Exactly.
And there are more people living in the District of Columbia than do in Wyoming. But they don't have representation. So you can't have it both ways, where you're saying these flyover states need rights, but then there are certain popular states, just because they're probably left-leaning, shouldn't have representation whatsoever.
So I've got to move on. We know that's just to inform you. It's educational to inform you about what is going on right now, what they're looking to do federally for the electoral college. But we're running out of time, so we have to move on. Primary schools, we only have one person here who has children in primary schools, and that's Aguna. Primary schools are getting a D+ for poor conditions. Bathrooms, toilet paper. I mean, I remember in Philadelphia years ago, they didn't even have toilet paper for the kids to go to the bathroom. The water fountains weren't properly working. Now they're saying, according to CNN.com, air conditioners are not working. So how, we're getting to a critical stage. Now the schools are getting older. How do there's a funding gap, but yet we keep giving funds through the state and federally to through the Department of Education to the districts through their states, and still they're getting these poor grades. How in the world is that happening, Cousin Todd? And don't go back, Cousin Todd, to the Electoral College. We don't have time.
I'm not going back there. Your question is, why is this happening with the schools?
Considering, my question is, why is this happening considering all the funding we give schools and education?
Well, what do you mean all the funding? Teachers don't make enough money anyway. That's the reason, if I can just say.
It's not about teachers. It's not about teachers getting the money. It's about schools getting the money for supplies. It's about upkeep of the schools in terms of, are the buildings running properly? Is the plumbing, is the air, is the heat running properly?
No,
that's a different budget.
Certain neighborhoods, in certain neighborhoods they are, and others they're not. We've all known rundown schools before, and nothing has changed. If you live in an area where they're not paying a lot of taxes, well, then this school is probably going to be run down. And that's always been the case. I think they should do something about that, which is take money from neighboring areas and use it for the worn down schools.
Oh, you got to be crazy. Aguna, you hear that? take money from neighboring areas. You know what that means,
Yes,
Stephen?
that means take money from
have my taxes go up for another area.
Nobody
They're
said
doing that, and that doesn't work either. You know why that doesn't work? Because they still are unable to build new schools. Aguna, please
Nobody's
tell us
talking
why
about
Todd's
building new
idea is not going to
schools.
work.
I'm talking about
the worst thing you can do is raise taxes. I know, like for instance, South Carolina, where they added the penny tax or they added the lottery in order to go towards education and scholarships and things like that. The problem is a lot of time government, when they get money, they mismanage it, right? Even when you have bloated school administrations, because, you're right, the teachers are underpaid, but the administrators aren't. So you have a lot of administration, a lot of top heavy school districts where you're paying these administrators a lot of money and they're not really necessarily even in the classroom, right? So you look at ways to get around that. And to Todd's point, when you merge school districts, that is actually a way to save money, because instead of two superintendents, have one, right? So I think, for example, Richland County in South Carolina, where I'm from, they have two school districts, Richland 1 and Richland 2. Richland 2 is a lot better than Richland 1 because of the amount of resources and the better quality schools. So you might as well just merge school district, get rid of a lot of the overhead administration, and then you can have more money to pay school teachers. You can consolidate facilities because you don't need a headquarters for Richland 1 and 2. So there are ways you can get around that, and then you have to appropriately budget correctly. And you could even privatize certain things. You can have outside consultants do teaching versus paying teachers benefits and things like that. There's ways you can get around it, but you need a business mind to kind of help with that outside of the educational system. And then last, what you can do, I guess the last thing, and this is where it gets into this whole school choice thing, right? If you give a voucher program, which you're giving families the option to go whatever school they want to, so they don't go to failing schools, again, that's going to create a vacuum in some districts. People can move and some people can't. So it has to be on a case-by-case basis. But you have to look at the administration and figure out where all the money's going, as well as appropriately at the state level. And this is not even the federal, I'm not even talking about the federal level. It's really at the state level where they're really, not managing the funding correctly.
So let's move on. I want to move on to the migrants from Venezuela and other countries who were shipped unknowingly to places like Massachusetts, Illinois, New York, and how that was illegal. What's going to happen, Stephen, to the governors of Florida and Texas for doing that?
What they did was not illegal. What the people did who came over a border was illegal. So what the governors can do whatever they want. It's not illegal for people from Martha's Vineyard or whatever at different places where these super rich people are that talk about loving everybody and bringing in migrants. They don't want the migrants around them. They want the migrants to be in the millions in Texas and Arizona.
Answer the question. What's going to happen to those governors?
Let me talk. They want to disrupt everybody else's life, like Keith, that live on border states. But if it affects them immediately, then they freak out and they got to call a National Guard. And they got to make sure that these people aren't around them, because these people are lesser than they are.
Why did they do that?
To care are the worst people in the world. They are the worst people in the world. They don't care about the migrants. Next. They care about votes. They care about millions of people coming in here and possibly voting Democrat. That's all it is. Thanks. They don't care. They just virtue signal. They act like they're good people, but none of these super rich people in these super rich places give one damn about anybody but themselves,
You've
Todd.
already
so you
said
can talk over me all you
keep
want.
Repeating yourself.
But you are a fool, Todd. You're a fool if you don't believe what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll take it.
You are a fool.
Okay.
But
How many times you going to say that? You keep repeating yourself. You keep repeating yourself. You keep repeating yourself.
Okay,
Stop
go
it.
ahead, Cousin Todd.
Somebody would think something was wrong with you, Stephen. If I said, my name is Stephen. My name is Stephen. Hey, my name is Stephen. My name is Stephen. You've already said it. So you just stop. Now, the question was, why would these governors do that? Send these people.
No, the question was, will they be in trouble? Will they be in trouble?
And what's going to happen to them?
They're letting the sanctuary cities see how hard it is. That's why they're doing it. You don't think it's hard for millions of people to come through the southern border and terrorize these border states?
Okay.
They want to give them a taste of what they're going through.
Okay.
That's why they do it.
Okay.
You're not stupid, Todd.
All right. You answered the question. Now let me talk. For these people to do that without giving any warning, just dump these people in their laps was dirty, rotten,
they're coming to the border.
Criminal. Now, we've already said that, nut job. How many times are you going to say it? So now,
I'm not like the nut job, you are.
To rent a airplane and have these people, who paid for that? And have these people put in. Now, some of these people were seeking asylum.
That's what I said in the beginning.
And some of these people
I said they are asylum seekers.
And so, not everybody. And some of these people.
Because what Stephen is saying is they came here illegally. That's not true.
And
you can come and give yourself up and seek asylum from Venezuela. You're a political refugee because of that country's government. So
asylum, you go to the new.
That's a lie. They're coming here to seek asylum.
If you want to seek asylum, you go to Mexico. You don't come to America.
Now,
that's some of these people. You're the liar.
Okay, you have to shut Stephen up.
Talk about it. You need to understand the law. You need to understand the law. You can give yourself up and seek asylum. That's not illegal immigration. So this is where you're confusing the issue. It doesn't matter if you build a wall or whatever. They can come here from Venezuela. This is why the governors are going to get in trouble, because these are asylum seekers. So they have due process to go through. What the governor is doing, they're using the state's money and Florida. If they're having such problems at the border, why don't they use that money to help with the border and help process these refugees? Again, you're trying to conflate two different issues.
Okay, we got to let Todd finish. Go ahead, Todd. You can't take up the whole show to finish your point, Todd.
I can't believe this. How typical. Anyway, some of these people had court dates and they were set, but DeSantis tricked them, telling them, oh, there'll be jobs waiting and accommodations waiting for you. And they believed him. So that's called kidnapping. And so he kidnapped these people and sent them to other states. And for that, he should be jailed. Maybe one day that'll happen to his daughter. Somebody will promise her a job in another state. And when she finds out where she'll be in Africa. And so
they are illegals.
They're not illegals. That's what Trump told you to call them. They are seeking asylum. Just like your people, when your people came here seeking asylum. See, this is what you white people fail to realize. If you're here and you look like
this is what you black people don't understand. You are celebrating your own demise. You're celebrating your own demise.
Listen,
we cannot have open borders, Todd.
You're a foreigner.
Todd, we cannot have open borders.
When your people came over here. Why don't you go back to where you came from?
No, we did not. My people came through legally. My people came
Irish
through legally,
to me,
Todd.
and you people came over here because of the famine,
My
begging for
people
food.
came through legally. You don't understand, Todd.
You can seek asylum.
This is an invasion of our southern border.
We were invaded by the Irish and the German.
We are invaded right now. We're being invaded.
We were already invaded.
The cartels run the southern border.
The natives will tell you who invaded us. That was you.
You don't have any sense. You don't have any sense of history. We're being invaded right now.
So I'm going to move on because
if you're white
I see
and
this
you're
is
in
getting nowhere.
America, you are a foreigner. So I'll tell you, like they told blacks, go back to where you came from.
We
Hey,
came through
Stacey.
the right channels. We came through the right channels. There's
Ma'am,
people
you did
breaking
not.
into our country.
The
Todd.
channels,
Millions
you
of people are
listen
coming
to
to
me
our country
carefully.
right now.
You were let out of the jails in Europe. And so you came over
That's not
here
true,
to
Todd.
Yeah.
conquer.
That's not true, Todd.
I'll wait till
Oh
they're
my
done
gosh.
arguing. Talking
All right,
over
go
each other.
ahead,
That's
Keith.
true. That's how you people got here.
Tell him, Keith.
Yeah, I
Tell him
just
what
wanted
the
to
truth
say.
is.
I just wanted to say Stephen is absolutely right.
Of course you would say that.
But you
because he's
guys
great in
forgot to
bed.
mention. But I think Stephen just forgot to mention. Actually, DeSantis gave the people a choice. They had the
Yes.
option. They were the
Yes.
ones who chose to go there. So just
They
wanted
were
to point that out.
tricked into it.
That's true,
They were
Keith.
supposed to have
The only
accommodation.
They were
one who
not
probably
tricked.
See, that's not what they're saying, but I guess because y'all are saying that makes it true
The
for
only
them.
one
No,
who
Yeah, but they
that's a
got it off
ridiculous.
the
promised-
dark
Stephen is
web.
not correct. You can seek
The only
asylum.
one
If
who
your
promised-
ancestors
We
sought
have the
asylum
receipt.
way back when they came over, why
It's
can't these people
documented.
seek asylum? You should be mad at the
only
process.
one-
You shouldn't
So
be
let
mad
me-
at the fact that they came here.
Let me ask Chris, do you want to make a comment on this, Chris, before we move on? We're out of time. We're going to have to do our roundtable.
Okay.
Well, here's what would have happened. What would have happened, Todd, if the illegal immigrants had showed up in Martha's Vineyard, not bust there, just showed up there? What do you think would have happened to them?
If they they wouldn't have just showed up. They were
But just say they did. Just
But
say
you-
they just showed out of the blue in Martha's Vineyard. What would have happened to them?
That's not the issue.
Right on.
That's
Chris.
not what you're doing is
Right
trying
on. It
to
is the
come up
issue.
with a fantasy and trying to put it.
That
What
is
if
the issue. Right on,
hypothetically,
Chris.
if
Right on.
somebody just popped up in your house right now, what
Right.
would you do? Get out of
Right.
here. Let's
That's-
deal with what happened. This
I-
common criminal sent these people to another state for
Yes.
a political punchline.
A state
That's
where
to make people not
a sanctuary
talk about.
state. He sent them to a sanctuary state.
Right. A
Where-
sanctuary
I don't
where-
care
state
what
that promises
state
to
you
take
sent
them
them
in.
to. They
You're right.
didn't ask
Exactly.
to go to that state. You sent them to that state. Let me give an example. Remember when you were in Africa minding your own business
I do
and
remember.
these
Yeah.
people came and stole you and took you to America?
Well,
The people
Same
who
difference.
stole black people were other black people.
that's true, Steve.
Learn your
That's
history,
not
Todd.
true.
You're
And
an
of
A white
embarrassment.
man
You're
didn't
an
traipse through
embarrassment.
Africa, Todd, and capture black people. They were given
They
Yeah,
by
white
did,
man
black
but
did
people.
I
not
have to
traipse through
teach you.
Africa.
I
You're
have
right,
to
Chris.
teach you what happened
You don't
in
know
Africa.
anything, Todd.
These people were.
Todd, you don't know
Seeking
history.
asylum. It doesn't matter if it's a sanctuary state or not. If they're seeking asylum, there's nothing illegal about that. So I don't know why you're saying, okay, you send them to a sanctuary state. Look, they're coming here seeking asylum. They're going through the process. They gave themselves up. They didn't sneak across the border. You're confusing the issue. They have the right. Well, they're seeking asylum. They're going through the right channels. That's legal. You guys, a sanctuary state means they're illegal immigrants that don't want to get sent back. That's completely different.
Okay.
They're not sending those people to Martha's Vineyard. They sent asylum seekers to Martha's Vineyard, which is a completely different story.
All right, we're out of time. We're going to do our roundtable, and what we're going to start with our roundtable, we're going to talk about really quickly. And you got less than 30 seconds, starting with Keith, then Stephen, then Chris, Aguna, and then Todd. So we'll start with Keith. The roundtable question is, our thoughts and prayers go out to the royal family who buried the Queen Elizabeth II, Monday.
Oh man,
Keith.
what a weak roundtable that is. Talk about that.
Why is that weak?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's done. It's already passed. It's okay. We dealt with that 2 weeks ago. But anyway, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family. Okay. I wanted to have something more controversial that we could actually get into. But anyway, that's all we get to say.
All right. Thank you.
Get to say.
Stephen, I don't know what happened to him. Chris. Oh, wait. I think I have you on mute, right? Yeah. Chris.
She was good for England. I didn't particularly feel one way or another, but I'm not glad anybody passed away. But I mean, she was good for her country. I don't have a lot to say about it. I mean, she was nothing special to me.
Okay, Aguna.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, any death is one to reflect on and mourn. But I mean, I'm not a big fan of the monarchy. I am of Nigerian descent, and I know what the British East India Company did to Africa, and in particular Nigeria.
Oh
So,
no, you people did it to yourself.
Queen
But to say that, what if they just popped up there on their own? That's
It's true. They would have sent them back to where they came from.
That's not true. That's not what happened. You have to deal in reality. This governor sent them there. Let's deal with that.
Yes.
That was wrong.
It was
Should
not
not have
wrong.
happened, and that's called kidnapping. These
not
people are not
kidnapping.
pawns to be played with.
If they can't stay where in Florida or Texas, why wouldn't he not send them somewhere else, or send them back to where they came from? What's the difference?
Okay, so
you cannot
solve problems. As Americans, we need to solve problems. I think it's wrong for the governors of Texas to try to kind of share the love kind of thing. This whole idea of us versus them when we're all Americans, I think is ridiculous.
Okay, let me get Stephen in. Let me get Stephen in, then Nas. Go ahead, Stephen. This is our round table. You've got 30 seconds.
I don't care about royalty. This is why we have a country. This is why we were all free. This is what the problem is. We have an invasion of our southern border right now. We've had it since Joe Biden's been in office. Everybody needs to understand what we're going through. The fentanyl and the drugs that are coming through right now have killed more people than COVID. Does anybody care about people's lives?
The lynchings
Does
have
anybody
been going
care about
on
young
ever since
people's
you got
lives
here.
when they're getting pills that they think are for something else and they end up being COVID? I mean, they end up being pills
then they should
that
go to
will
jail.
kill them. Do you worry
That's
about
illegal.
that? Do you understand that we're having an invasion of our southern border by over 100 different countries right now? So I don't blame the governors of these border states. Stop talking, Todd. You're just ignorant. Do your research because you're ignorant.
I am. We have a war on drugs.
You do not understand.
What's happening in our southern border
is going to destroy our country.
You should be
what you are doing is celebrating your own demise. You are too stupid to understand what's going on right now, Todd. I feel sorry for you. There's
all right, thank you.
That are dying at a huge rate, and you cared so much about people dying from COVID. Do you care about people dying from fentanyl? You do not. You do not care about people. That's your problem. You care about politics.
I said.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Who are on drugs should be in jail. Just like you did when people were on crack. Send them to jail. People on fentanyl, send them to jail.
All right, Nas, you've got 5 seconds.
Oh, I'm just amazed that Stephen leaves the house every day and doesn't trade the family car for some match beans. Like, I don't understand how he makes it through a day without pushing on doors that say pull. Like, it is an amazing feat, Stephen, for you to
Who's that, Nas? Hey, Nas, you're like a blister. It's so glad you showed up after all the work is done. Where are you coming in now for? Oh, I'm here now. You should have been here the whole show. You're just
Nas, we're talking about the Queen of England being buried Monday. Do you want to make your comment real fast before we leave?
He doesn't care.
And we're talking about the southern border.
I can't say anything that wouldn't be tasteless. So there's, I'm not even going to say anything. She's gone. It's over.
Right.
And that's that.
Let's talk about DeSantis sending those asylum seekers to Martha's Vineyard.
Hey, Stacey, it's good to see that we all agree.
The southern border and defend it. Let's go down. Let's all of us go down and defend the southern border from invasion. Right. Well, see, and then this is the weird part. We're not actually talking about illegal immigrants on the southern border. You're talking about people who are seeking
asylum seekers.
And it's completely different. Yeah, and this stunt is what's stopping those people from being able to make their court dates. So they're not
court dates and all.
Court date is in 6 years. There's 6 years for the court date.
Has court dates set up, lined up.
It'll be 6 years. You'll never have a court date. You're full of crap. You're full of crap.
Florida and some of these other places. And let me tell you something else, man. If you ever want to piss off some people, and especially if we're talking about lawyers, go to Martha's Vineyard and do something to a place where there's more lawyers per capita than, it's like, dude,
there's going to be some serious legal ramifications from this. This little political stunt is not going to fly. And they're claiming they're sending some more in the next few days to other areas. So, again, the right doesn't have actual answers. They don't have policy. All they have is grievance and rallying their base around their hatred. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you to our first responders in our communities. You make our lives livable. Thank you, thank you, thank you to our men and women in the U.S. military for all that you do in sacrificing your lives so that we are free to choose. We're free to choose to say whatever we want to on this show. We are forever indebted. On behalf of Aguna, glad to have him back. The Nigerian model Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker.
He's not, and you know he's not. He's the quack. Wish you were.
Smarter than you.
And my cousin Todd.
You're an idiot.
I'm
Stacey Johnson. Thank you to my cousin. Thank you to my cousin Chris. Thank you to Nas for coming on. We're going to be on next week at 7:30.
I don't know.
And excuse me, be on time, people. Be on time. Good night.
Peace.
Bye, crackpot.
Man, Chris.
And your boyfriend too.